The steps taken by the Korean government in terms of its ODA commitment, in terms of KOICA developing the assessment of projects from the MDG perspective before funding them, the movement towards more untied aid, movement towards reduction of loans, concessional loans, and hiring up the grants as part of the overall ODA package. These are all good steps, and we would only encourage that the Korean government really keeps to those steps and keeps to the timeline. So that is the one major request to the Korean government. The second point which I would like to emphasize is the G20 is a great opportunity that Korea has to redirect the discourse, global discourse on economic development, which has to be absolutely toned by inclusive economic development on one hand and sustainable development on the other. And Korea itself has been showing its commitment towards building a green economy. So we want the G20 meeting that Korea is chairing and Korea is hosting in November to be a kind of a milestone towards push for inclusive and sustainable economic development as a model for the world to be pushed through the G20 meeting. So that's the second expectation we would surely have from the government. And the third area that we would like is that the Korean government engages much more intensely the stakeholders in all the consultations towards preparation of the MDG summit, including the MDG 10 report that they are planning to have, which should be much more substantive and which should cover all the issues under goal 8, which is quantity and quality of aid, on the issue of debt cancellation, debt swaps, and it should also include the issues of trade and how Korea is doing its trade policy in the interest of the poor countries, in the interest of the least developed countries. So those issues. So stakeholder consultation in policy making for all the ODA related work and other developmental policy setting, I think is a third expectation that we would have from the Korean government. And I'm sure with the kind of movement one is seeing, it should be possible. It is not a high expectation. It is doable. It is possible. From the civil society side, I think the key challenge is you have active civil society organizations. The idea is to build a consistent, coherent policy platform where everybody is speaking on those common policy issues together and putting an agenda and a challenge in front of the government to deliver on their promises and also to stretch those promises a little beyond. If Korean government has agreed 0.25 of gross national income, great, congratulate the Korean government. But at the same time, don't forget, the international commitment is 0.7% of GNI. So how do you stretch those commitments? So civil society's role is one, watchdog, look what is happening on the promises, and second is to challenge for delivering more. So those roles, and those roles, two roles can be played by civil society only if they build a coherent policy platform which is a broad base, which includes everybody, and which they are able to bring a big pressure when the government sees that it is important that they hear the voices and take the voices of civil society into account. So that will be the expectation from the civil society side. In terms of the broad citizenry, I think there is a good importance for citizens to keep their pressure, the constituency for Korea's role in international development. If there's a strong supportive constituency, and if the politicians and the political leaders know that the voters care for the international development role Korea plays, then the leaders will be pushed and forced to do more. So citizens have to be be informed citizens, not only about Korea and its development challenges and its economic and the financial issues, but the citizens have to be much more strongly informed about Korea's international development role and support that role and hold government to account by whether it's performing that role or not. So that's the kind of a role that the citizens can play and should play. And looking at the history of the Korean citizens, history of the struggles and the challenges and the successes that the Korean citizens have had towards building the democracy, towards moving towards a very strong economy in this region and in the world, I think Korean citizens can surely play that kind of role.